This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream and my streaming service Nebula, where you can watch an extended cut of this sweet Q&A video you're about to watch. Hi everybody, welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. I thought it might be time that I skate around a little bit and bring you my first edition of Facebook and Twitter Q&A. Shout out to Rob Araujo, who provided the track that you hear playing in the background for today's Q&A. All the links to check out my good friend, the amazing Rob Araujo, are in the description. All right, our first question comes from Gil Seri on Twitter, and he asks, why is la only a note to follow so? Doesn't it have its own identity? That's so codependent. I think it's a really good point. And when you think about it, there's probably nobody to blame except Oscar Hammerstein. I mean, he wrote the lyric for Sound of Music, right? Couldn't he have come up with something better? There are things for la, like la, the feminine form of the in Spanish. Wouldn't have been bad. La, the thing you practice if you want to become an attorney. I don't know. A note to follow so is probably the more romantic choice when you actually think about it, what your options were. But yeah, we blame Oscar Hammerstein for making law codependent if we have to blame anybody. Here's the next question. It has to do with, what do you do when you fail as a musician? It's not easy to think about the fact that you might have failed at something. I don't really think you should when you think about art. You know, I mean, there are ways that we can screw up. I screw up all the time. Maybe I'll play a solo on a gig that I'm in the middle of it and I think, what even is this solo? Like, what am I trying to do? I wish I had a do-over. Sometimes I fail at a YouTube video. Sometimes it'll just flop, and it'll be one that I poured my heart and soul into. Hours and hours, and for some reason it just doesn't resonate. You never know with art. Sucks, kind of. But on the other hand, art can elevate. It can do a lot of good for a lot of people. Maybe look at it this way. I mean, music is life. Life is music. We say that all the time, and I believe it. What about in life? If you are not failing in life sometimes, and often, you're not growing as a person. I think that's part of what we're doing here on this planet, is learning how to feel the wins and learning how to feel the losses, how to deal with the wins, how to deal with the losses. If we always win, we're not gonna grow, we're not gonna know, we're not even gonna think it feels good anymore. You gotta be taken down a notch in order to be built up a notch. Does that make sense? So maybe if you can look at your fails more as opportunities for growth, it can help. Also though, I mean, I'm not saying I don't know how it feels to be taken down a notch. And even though it's necessary, there are some things that I do to feel better. And that's when I'm at those low spots, I think I need to remember what I love about music, why I play music in the first place. And for everybody, that's gonna look different. I usually go sit and play piano late at night. Everybody's in bed. I kind of turn the lights out, and I just remember how it feels to make beautiful music. Music for me, music that I think is beautiful. And usually, that's enough to make me go, yeah, this is worth it. So whatever that looks like for you, reconnecting with what you love about music might be the most important thing you can do when you fail. Then you worry about why you failed, or had an opportunity for growth. Then you worry about that, and about what you can do to not do that next time or do a better job. You just gotta keep kicking and pushing. All right, the next question comes from Twitter. Meta Todd asks, which scale will help me get more chicks? Spoken like a true male jazz musician. Or lesbian, as the case might be. Most girls won't tell you the answer to this, but I'm not your average chick. I'm gonna tell you. There's a scale. There's one scale. Whole tone scale. Really does it for me. Every note gets more and more exciting as you go up the scale. I'll just leave it right there for you. All right, we've got some more questions, but I think I need to be at a piano to answer them. So I'm gonna skate home, get to the piano, and answer the rest of the questions. So maybe I'm gonna drive home. I lied. Let's go. All right, the rest of the questions will come from Facebook. The first one comes from Jim Wendelkin. My son is prepping a year early for his 7th grade jazz piano audition for jazz band. There can only be one in the whole district. What should he focus on, besides listening to Oscar Peterson, of course? I'm glad you told your son that he should listen. That is number one. You can't play jazz if you haven't listened to jazz. But this brings up a very important thing that I've been meaning to cover on my channel and never have. It's a little bit of a niche subject. Not everybody's interested in it. But playing big band piano is so tricky for these kids in middle school and high school who don't have a jazz piano player to show them what to do. And here's the reason. Let's look at this chart that I found online called High Flyer. It's got a piano part written out. Look at it. We've got these chord symbols and rhythms beneath, and all of the chords are written out with left-hand notes and right-hand notes. But if you'll notice, all of the chords are root in the left hand and nothing higher than a 7 for extensions in the right hand. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now those are jazz rhythms and those are jazz chords, but they aren't written the way that jazz piano players typically would play on a tune. The biggest reason, is that we've got all of these bass notes and they fight with the frequencies of the lower instruments in the band. We've got a bass player that covers those bass notes already, so you don't need to play them. We've also got low trombones in the band, and all of that sound from the low end of your piano is just going to get covered up in big band by those other instruments covering that range of frequency. If you listen to Count Basie play the piano, if you listen to Duke Ellington play the piano, most of what they're playing is up in this range. And if you'll notice, if you'll pay extra close attention, when they play, usually the band is not playing. So what these big band charts do for your kids is that they give them all the hits of whatever the melody is doing in this chart. Whatever the big band's doing, this is giving you the hits that accentuate those punches from the horns. And that's a good thing. It's really good to be able to read these rhythms and play along. My hugest recommendation is that you ignore what's on the page and show your son, show your kids how to play thirds and sevens with their left hand. That's key. So then you're gonna ignore the notes on the page, but you're not gonna ignore the rhythms. The first step will be to play those thirds and sevens like that. The next step is to play octaves with your right hand. That way, you've got this middle part of the piano happening. You've also got the high end part of the piano happening. which is more likely to kind of cut through the sound of the horns, even though they will be taking up trumpets, saxophones, that high end. The octaves that you play can start really easily. You can actually play the root up an octave. That's the easiest way to start. It's really a great place to start to do it like that. So after your pianist has learned thirds and sevenths with their left hand and playing root octaves with their right hand, the next thing to help them with is to actually go through their chart and listen to where the band is playing and don't play. That's what I do when I play for a big band. I let the horns cover all the stuff that the horns are supposed to play, and in the tiny spots where the band is not playing, that's where I'm gonna play. I'm gonna look for the holes to make tasty little stabs in. Let's listen to how it goes. Ooh, that's a good spot for one. Again, you kind of pretend like you're Count Basie. Now, if your kid hasn't listened to Count Basie, they're not going to know how to play like Count Basie. But these are key things for big band piano players to learn. Don't play what's on the chart. Learn to play thirds and sevenths with your left hand. Now, of course, I have videos that will go over exactly what to do with your right hand. Look at my comprehensive guide to comping video. That will give you a really straightforward roadmap of where to start with your comping, where to end with your comping, and what to do when you're playing for big bands. But yeah, realize that these charts are just written by, big band arrangers that aren't necessarily jazz piano players. They're really good at writing for horns. They're good at what they do. They're just not good at writing piano parts. And it can be difficult to write a piano part for a big band middle school piano player because you don't know what their level is. So this has become the norm, to write these roots with the left hand, middle of the piano, chords for the pianist. And I think it's a problem, but I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. Hopefully this helps. The next question comes from Taylor Hatch. Whenever in the context of learning a tune or absorbing the language of a song, how do you balance the cerebral aspect compared to the whimsical and imaginative side of how you learn? It's a cool question, Taylor, and my answer comes from life again. When I live my life, I have sometimes where I need to follow schedules, sometimes where I need to follow rules, but if I were to live my life like that all the time, I think I'd go crazy. I need to have times where something else comes up and I say, yeah, I'm gonna do that instead. Or where I say, I'm super bored. I gotta go do something crazy. Like, you just, you feel how you are in your situation and you adjust accordingly. So the same thing is true in music. You know the things that you need to practice, but there's always room to throw in something crazy, something imaginative, something fun. It reminds me of my high school basketball coach. Sometimes he would say, all right, we've got 8 basketball hoops in the gym. On this one, you're going to do a right-handed layup. Then you go to this one and do a left-handed layup. On this one, I want you to shoot a free throw. On this one, I want you to use the backboard from the block. Like, something for every single hoop. But at the last one, he said, last one's your crazy hoop. Do whatever you want. And I lived for that crazy hoop. Behind the back shots, trick shots, whatever. It was fun for me. And I've got to have that level of fun in my music. So no matter what it is, you might be playing these kind of open voicings that I talk about in my other comping videos. And you might be going through a song. And practicing your voicings like that. But at some point you might get tired of that and think, I want to just see what else I can add. What else can I do to be a little crazy? All right, maybe instead of having the third and seven on the bottom, maybe I want to have some dissonance on the bottom. I'm going to put, that's kind of cool. What if I add the 11? Nice, where can I go from there? I don't know, it's pretty cool, let's try it. Just think a little bit outside the box here and there. If you're in the middle of your solo, think, all right, what's the opposite of what I would normally play? And play it. You just got to mix things up. It's my rule in music and it's my rule in life. I hope that helps. The next question comes from Brian Greendahl. How do you break through the "it seems no matter what I work on, I'm just not getting better" slump? I call it a plateau instead of a slump. Like you're moving along, you're progressing, and all of a sudden you seem to just flatten out and go like this for a while until you figure out how to move on and progress again. That plateau is problematic. We grow in these areas and we remain stagnant here, but it happens for everybody. And no matter what you do, it will happen to you through your whole life, because sometimes you need to coast with the things that you've already learned, I think. But you need to get back on that uphill slope after a little bit. Transcribing is the best way I know of to do this. It puts you outside of your comfort zone and it teaches you to play like you wouldn't normally play. Look at this pretty old video of mine about how to sound like Thelonious Monk, and listen to how I sound after I've transcribed Friday the 13th. Doesn't sound anything like me. That gave me a nudge. After I recorded that, it gave me a nudge to add something different to my playing. And it really sank in because of how much detailed attention I gave when I was transcribing. If you listen to something over and over and over, enough to be able to actually write it down and then to be able to execute it on your instrument, things are going to sink in inside of you deep down that you wouldn't get otherwise. So I think that's my easy answer, is to transcribe. It takes you right out of that slump. The next question is from Ernie Centofanti. Do you have any special types of keyboard runs you like to use when playing solo piano? How often do you use the diminished scale? If you watch my channel, you'll know that I'm not the kind of pianist that will spend a huge amount of time teaching you about runs and how to play fast. There are other pianists that can teach you those things. And not to say that they're not important, but for me, the most important parts of music come from being able to play what you sing in your head, what you hear inside of yourself. So I make a big focus on melodic playing. That said, I do have some fun videos. I have one with a super fast pentatonic run in D flat that I think, comes from Art Tatum and maybe even before him, that everybody uses these days. I also have some fun videos on McCoy Tyner's playing that might really help you out. Nare Sol is a great pianist to check out if you'd like to learn about how to have a little more technical facility in your playing. Things like the way to hold your hand, correct fingering, and it's just a great channel all around. Next question comes from Jeff Meschel. Thanks for being a top fan, Jeff. Explain the rhythm of the introduction to Buddy Holly's Not Fade Away. I love Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly is a classic example from early rock and roll of a dude who really listened to his stuff. He was learning from the great R&B players of the day and copying what they did. This intro follows what is called the 3-beat or the 3-2 pattern of a New Orleans street beat rhythm. And it sounds like this. Dot, 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 dot. Highly influenced from Afro-Cuban rhythms. You can hear Bernard Purdie playing it a little bit right here in this example. Buddy Holly and the Crickets don't use the rhythm exactly, but I think it comes from there. And the confusing thing about the way that they've played it is that they play an E chord that goes to an A chord. They're playing it kind of dun dun ga-dun ga-digga dun 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 ga-digga digga dun dun. Hits on 1 and 2, resting on 3, picking up on the and of 3, and then hitting and of 3, 4, and of 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's ga-digga. And on the ga-digga, they're going to the 4 chord. So 1, 2, 3, ga-digga, and then the first 2/8 notes of the next bar, da-ga, happen like that. It goes A back to E, and then E twice on beats 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, ga-digga, digga, da, da. It's just a little riff that they came up with, but that's how to feel it. Bop, bop, ba-digga, digga, dot, dot, bop, bop, ba-digga, digga, dot, dot. I hope that helps you to feel it just a little bit better. I'd like to interrupt my video for a second to tell you that you can watch an extended cut of this video over on Nebula, where I go into much more detail especially about the big band and piano voicing sections of this Q&A. Here might be to keep the third, because here's your third of F7, but make this into a sharp 11. Nebula is a place where educational content creators like myself like to try out new content ideas that might not be right for YouTube, especially content that might end up getting demonetized or videos that are too long for the typical YouTube attention span or algorithm. But not to fear, the extended version is available on Nebula thanks to CuriosityStream for sponsoring this video. Get access to Nebula when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description. And for the next few days, get it at a 42% discount. That's just $11.59 for the whole year. And because CuriosityStream loves supporting creators like myself, when you sign up for CuriosityStream, you get immediate access to Nebula, where all of the extended versions of my videos live when you sign up using my code. Nebula is a streaming video platform built by creators like myself, Adam Neely, 12 Tone Music, Lindsay Ellis, Mary Spender, and many more. Plus, you'll get access to CuriosityStream, where you can watch thousands of documentaries about countless subjects, like this excellent portrait of fiddling that covers the culture of today's fiddling conventions and festivals, as well as the history of fiddling music and bluegrass, while letting you have a sneak peek into the lives of some of the best bluegrass musicians in the world. We've worked out a deal for you to sign up for CuriosityStream. After you use the code Aimee Nolte, you'll receive a welcome video from Nebula giving you access to the platform. Using this code and signing up will help my fellow creators and myself to be able to do what we love to do. Create videos that we think are important on a platform that we believe in and that actually believes in us. Thanks so much for your support. All right, that's it. Thank you everybody for your questions. If you don't follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'm there in all of those places, and from time to time, well, like I said, I mix things up. I get a little spontaneous, and hopefully we have a good time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time on Aimee Nolte Music.